A young mother caught in the clutches of a waterborne beast.
She did a big and then she went down so fast. It was like, oh my gosh, she's gone.
A mystery that attracted national interest, and some claim government interference.
You'd think if something's grabbing people in the river, they'd want everybody to know about it.
You need to forget this ever happened.
But they said never repeat it.
Night watch turns to nightmare as a monster breaks in.
I looked in his eyes and I thought, what the hell is this? My first thought was, is this thing gonna tear me apart?
A family on a hike, their kids stalked by the legendary Grassman.
The way that my kids acted, there's no doubt in my mind that they saw something big.
The Ohio River winds its way west for nearly 1,000 miles, one of the great American waterways, a conduit for commercial craft and leisure time boating. Yet residents around Evansville, Indiana tell a different story about the river. One with a monster lashing out from the muddy deep.
Around the Ohio River, I think a lot of strange things do take place here. There's a lot of things that you can't explain.
It's a beautiful place, beautiful trees, but a lot of people disappear from the Ohio River, and nobody never knows where they went. They're just gone.
This is so crazy. Come on.
You ready?
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Did you feel it?
Something's in here.
What? Oh my God!
For Daryl and Darwin Johnson, the Ohio River is a place of fear.
My mom made me promise her that I would never get into the river because of something that scared her so bad.
I've always got a gun with me when I'm at the river. Always got a gun.
When they were young, the Johnson brothers, along with their sister Sandra, nearly lost their mother to something lurking in the depths.
I was only 5 years old at the time. When it's something that traumatic, I think it helps you remember more.
It all began on August 14th, 1955. Naomi Johnson took her children and her best friend Louise to a swimming beach along the Ohio River.
So, Miss Sandra, you're gonna build another sandcastle?
Summer was in full swing, and on hot Ohio days, the river's cool current was just the tonic.
My mother was a really strong swimmer. She had 4 older brothers, and they made her tough. Never seen her back down from anybody.
On that summer day, however, Naomi Johnson wasn't feeling very confident.
All right, you guys stay here. We're gonna go in the water.
She had a strange feeling that day that something was wrong, and she would let me go in the water, and I was mad about it.
Naomi's daughter Sandra was also along with her mom that day. She'll never forget it.
It was a beautiful, sunny day. She told me to stay on the bank like she always did, so I just was there playing.
And Louise, she couldn't swim, so she had a big inner tube she would always get in. Well, Mom would drag her out in the river, and they were out in the river probably 15 or 16 feet.
At 16 feet from shore, the women felt safe from the fast currents running in the center of the river. Naomi's daughter Sandra was playing on the beach when she got the first sign of trouble.
I heard Louise screaming and hitting the water. And I looked up and Mom wasn't there.
Somebody help!
When she jerked out of the water, she did a big and then she went down so fast. It was like, oh my God, she's gone. Oh, I was horrified.
Something grabbed her by the leg.
Naomi, somebody help!
Louise was hitting the water and kicking and screaming at the top of her lungs.
Oh my God.
To look around that water to try to see if I could see Mom, and she wasn't there. It was awful.
For minutes on end, Naomi Johnson was in a death struggle with an underwater beast.
Please, Naomi.
My mother fought her way back to the surface, and she said, something's got a hold of me. And it yanked her down again.
Again and again, Naomi was dragged below. She might never have been seen again if Louise hadn't paddled her inner tube directly over the spot.
Louise was trying to scare the thing away and to let her go.
When Naomi resurfaced, she made one last desperate reach.
And that's when the creature turned her loose.
Oh my God. We gotta get back to shore.
Though Naomi had narrowly escaped drowning, she courageously turned to helping her friend Louise.
Did you see it?
Mom towed her back in with her.
She grabbed Louise's inner tube and they swam to the bank and got out of the water.
While Naomi had escaped with her life, her body was bruised, her legs clawed and bleeding.
She could barely get out of the water. Someone had called an ambulance.
Right away, they looked at her leg and they seen pretty big scratches.
You're pretty torn up, and they need something to get you good.
3 scratches, like 3 claws. And it went from her knee close to her ankle.
I looked at her legs, and she had marks, blue marks, and it swirled down both legs. The man who drove the ambulance, he had some rubbing alcohol, and he was trying to get the blue marks off of her legs. And it was dyed on. I mean, the dirt and the stuff came off, but those marks didn't. And I remember her saying that it was burning her because of the scratches.
He tried all kinds of stuff trying to get the color off the leg, but it just stayed on.
And when they took samples of this mud and they sent it to Pennsylvania to a university, and this university came back and told the Johnsons that this mud, this blue mud, comes from the deepest of rivers. It actually comes from caves. It makes you wonder if maybe there's not caves in the Ohio River that might have some type of an aquatic cryptid creature living in it.
The attack drew headlines and national interest, and adding to the mystery, rumors of the U.S. government secretly involved in the case.
Miss Johnson, I'm from the Air Force.
A man came to our house, and he said he was an Air Force colonel.
The big question is, why would the Air Force have any interest whatsoever in Naomi Johnson's story?
Miss Johnson, it's over. You can never repeat this story to anyone.
In Evansville, Indiana, during the hot summer, swimming beaches along the banks of the Ohio River can offer refreshing relief. August 14th, 1955 seemed like the perfect kind of day for Naomi Johnson to take her children to play along the shore. While Naomi and her friend Louise relaxed, floating in the shallows of the river.
My mom was swimming in the Ohio, and something had grabbed her and pulled her under the water. She fought her way back to the top, and it grabbed her again.
Naomi!
And to look around that water to try to see if I could see Mom, and she wasn't there. It was awful.
Naomi Johnson narrowly escaped drowning. In all the turmoil, she managed to catch one fleeting impression of the monster.
A hairy palm with claws. They grabbed her, and it was really strong.
Ever since then, it's been known as the green-clawed beast, a creature that makes no biological sense. Green scales of an amphibian, furry fringe of a mammal, lethal claws of a lizard. The normal rules of nature no longer seem to apply. Naomi Johnson was the only victim in 1955 that reported an attack by the creature in the Ohio River. Yet her case was one more story in a series of outlandish tales at a time when America was anxious about aliens from space and mutant monsters here on Earth.
1954, Universal Studios released a film known as The Creature from the Black Lagoon. It portrays a reptilian humanoid type creature that lurks in the murky water, reaching up to grab the victims with a webbed claw-like hand.
Hollywood was caught up with monster mania, but for the Johnson family, the attack wasn't entertainment. Apparently, the U.S. military didn't think so either.
Ms. Johnson, I'm from the Air Force.
The Air Force?
I understand there was something happened to you in the Ohio River.
A man came to our house, and he said he was an Air Force colonel. And he talked to her, and she told the whole story.
Swimming, and all of a sudden a monster, well, something pulled me down.
During the meeting, this colonel had taken substantial notes about her encounter.
I was underwater, I was able to see. I know it wasn't an alligator, it wasn't a big fish. It had me by my legs. It was a monster.
Big question is, why would the Air Force have any interest whatsoever in Naomi Johnson's story?
It was nothing I've ever seen before.
Ms. Johnson, it's over. You can never repeat this to anyone. You need to forget this ever happened.
He said, now don't ever repeat the story to anyone. And I don't understand what that was all about. You'd think if something's grabbing people in the river, they'd want everybody to know about it. But they said never repeat it.
The U.S. government hasn't acknowledged the incident. Paranormal groups and UFO researchers aren't convinced.
The United States Air Force believed that Naomi Johnson may have encountered something unearthly, maybe an alien, maybe a cryptid creature. We don't know.
The excitement over the green-clawed beast came and went. For most folks, the Ohio flowed onward, but not for the Johnson family. It's as if the river hasn't moved since that summer in 1955.
Had it grabbed me, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have been strong enough to get away from it. And it was really strong.
Scared her really, really bad. She didn't want to ever go back into the river.
We had to promise we'd never go to the river. We had to stay far away from the river. She couldn't swim anymore. And it was just, she was so terrified from being caught in the river.
The Ohio isn't the only waterway hiding secrets. Just 100 miles to the west, in Illinois, the Big Muddy River churns with a mystery all its own.
The Big Muddy River runs just outside of Murfreesboro. Small river. It's an erratic river. It frequently reaches flood stage. It goes up and down and up and down.
According to locals, every now and then, something monstrous emerges from the river muck. Some 40 years ago, Ron Manwaring was police chief. He remembers the night in June of 1973, like it was yesterday.
It was a hot, humid night in Murfreesboro. A typical summer night. There was a couple parked near the boat ramp area at Riverside Park.
You have Randy Needham and Judy Johnson late at night, and who knows what they're doing there.
Do you think anybody will see us?
No, I don't think so.
They were married, but not to each other.
I missed you. What was that?
And they hear something coming out of the river. They don't know what it is at first, but it's coming toward the car.
What is it?
I don't know. Joe! What was that?
They'd heard a loud scream, something that they'd never heard before, and looked up and saw this big creature that scared them to death.
At the river's edge of Murfreesboro, Illinois, a big muddy monster has long been rumored to lurk. On the night of June 25th, 1973, one couple planned an illicit rendezvous by the river.
What if somebody sees us?
Just when they thought they had managed a moment alone, a mud-splattered beast emerged from the dark water.
The smell is what everybody seems to always come back to with it. It just smelled putrid.
Is somebody out there?
I don't know. What was that?
And they saw this creature standing within a few feet of their car.
It was 7 feet tall, weighed 400 pounds, and it just stinks.
Randy!
Go!
The eyes just glowed and stared at them. And they're freaked out. Put the car in gear and they get out of there.
Panicked by the monster, they drove to the last place a couple having an affair would go.
We need some help.
Hey, we need to report something.
You'd have to be frightened for your life to go to the police. I mean, of all places to go.
We're just down by the Big Muddy.
You're down here having an affair by the river?
Yeah, we were...
Murfreesboro is a small town. Everybody knows each other.
There's something out there. It needs to be dealt with. We'll look into it.
So the cops go down, they check it out. They go down into the woods, they start seeing the footprints, which are maybe a foot long. They're definitely odd looking.
While they were down there, the officers heard this creature, and they described it as nothing like they'd ever heard before. And it scared the one deputy so bad that he had dropped his gun and didn't want to go back and get it. They were genuinely frightened by what they'd heard.
The legend of the Big Muddy Monster was born.
Anytime anything weird, unexplained happens around Murfreesboro, the Big Muddy Monster is probably within the top 5 explanations for what it could have been.
That's exactly the explanation that Bob Ryman prefers to use. According to Bob, the Big Muddy churned again in 1988, and the monster came forward.
It happened 30 years ago, and I remember just like it was yesterday.
Bob Ryman owned a salvage business on the outskirts of Murfreesboro. The yard backed right up to the river's edge.
We had a few thieves, kids would get in there. So I decided to get somebody to do some security work for me.
One chilly night in June 1988, the security guard heard something moving about outside. He gave Bob a call.
My security officer, Charlie Straub, said, "Bob, there's somebody in the yard." So I got up out of bed, and got dressed and drove over to the shop.
All right, what's going on? There's definitely something out here, man. Let's go.
So we walked down all the way to the back of the yard. We didn't see any flashlights or any sign of anybody stealing parts. But we heard a noise.
And then a terrible odor.
That smell. It smells horrible.
It was kind of a cross between rotten eggs and a skunk. It would burn your eyes and it kind of burned the back of your throat and your nostrils.
They didn't realize the scorching smell was a warning.
We seen this humongous creature, and it let out a scream that would set your hair on end. And its eyes were glowing just as red as two taillights on a car. He's very huge. My first thought was, are we gonna die tonight?
The town of Murfreesboro in southwest Illinois. Since the early 1970s, it's become an epicenter of encounters with a mysterious monster. A long-haired beast, very big and very muddy. It's thought to be a variety of Bigfoot, but one that seems to use the Big Muddy River as its primary means of migrating. After more than a dozen sightings all around Murfreesboro, it appeared as if the bizarre brute was turning the town upside down.
You don't see a 7-foot white monster come crawling out of the river every day.
Bob Ryman claims he did. Alerted there was an intruder at his salvage yard, Bob and his security guard, Charlie, went to investigate. That's when they heard the scream.
It come out like a siren. It was like a whoa and raised to a real high pitch. That alone was enough to scare you. You know how somebody says they're in awe? I was so petrified it was like I was in awe. I managed to get the words out to Charlie, should I shoot it? And he said, no, don't. No! As big as this thing was, it would probably just make it mad.
They got away and regrouped at the shop.
The phone rang, and it was Bobby Joel on the phone. He said for us to come down there that he thinks he's seen the Big Money Monster.
Bob's sister and mother were so certain he was playing a prank, they presented him with a gift.
This is for all the BS you're feeding us.
We thought they were just joking. They looked like they were really scared. I mean, Bob's eyes was great big, and he said, I'm telling you, it's for real.
You probably just saw your own shadow.
At the very least, they thought it was over.
Out of nowhere comes this big bang on the back of the building, scared the hell out of every one of us.
It sounded like somebody had shot a gun and it hit the building. I heard that bang and I thought I was a goner.
You know, we kind of all looked at each other. We didn't know what was going to take place. This thing sounded like it really wanted to get inside the building. Everybody there was kind of petrified. The creature could have had some ill will towards us. It could have been trying to want to hurt us. I was scared to death. I think the Big Money Monster could rip their leg off of you and beat you to death with it. That's exactly what I think he could do.
After the Big Muddy left his mark on the building, it disappeared back into the night.
We didn't tell anybody because we didn't think anybody would believe us. And so we left it at that.
Is it an ape? Is it some missing link? Is it something that just got completely left out of evolution and was hiding out in a cave? You don't really know what it is. That's probably part of what makes it so scary.
Salt Fork State Park, Ohio's largest recreational wilderness. While cities and suburbs cover much of the state, Salt Fork remains open, a fragment of backcountry, hidden away in eastern Ohio. Within these natural spaces, rumors persist about a legendary beast.
I'd always heard legends and stories of it, but we just always thought it was, something to scare the kids.
Salt Fork is the ground zero of Grassman sightings in the state of Ohio. If you look at the amount of sightings, it's outrageous with what we've got.
Every time I come to Salt Fork, something happens. It's unexplainable to me. At night, sometimes when I'm by the campfire, I hear them through the woods.
The legends date back to the mid-1800s. Newspapers include stories about giant wild men harassing families and their farms. January 1869, Gallia County, Ohio. A man and his daughter were returning home from town. Managed to save her father. Nearly 150 years later, the Grassman's violent reputation is still discussed.
I think it could, very well snap your back, snap your neck. I think the fact of something that large coming at you probably would give you a heart attack and you would die and hit the ground before it got to you.
In a lineup of the hairy ape men believed to exist, it's Bigfoot's shorter, stockier, angrier cousin.
His size is probably right around 6 to 7 feet, about 300 pounds, extremely aggressive.
Their name may derive from large mysterious nests made of grass found in the region. Big nest, big beast.
I have heard grunts. I've had sticks thrown at me. I've had rocks thrown at me. It's a very odd feeling that you have when you're here at this park. You know that there's something definitely here.
And that something would make itself known to the Eddy family. Their day hike through Salt Fork Park turned into a nightmare.
It's very terrifying knowing that the Grassman was within 60 feet from my children.
It was scary. It was so terrifying. The scariest moment in my life.
Where's Jersey?
And scarier still, the Eddy's youngest one, little Jersey, was all alone with the beast. Some 90 miles south of Cleveland, Ohio, a secluded region of the state, the Sasquatch Triangle, home to the highest number of sightings of the Grassman, a wild ape-man beast, known for an aggressive disposition.
They're extremely muscular. Their arms are very long, legs are very long. I believe they can kill you if they want to.
Unfortunately, the Eddy family hadn't heard much about the Grassman legends. The Eddys of Cambridge, Ohio, are a Midwestern minivan driving American family. Melissa and her husband Bob have 4 children, ranging in age from 5 to 16.
My kids are good kids. They have good grades, straight A's. These are tough kids. They don't cry in the woods. Even if they would get lost, they would turn around, they would try to find their way out. They would keep walking for miles before they would even yell for help. That's how they've been brought up.
Recently, the Eddies decided to go out for a hike. Their plans took them to Salt Fork Park, Ohio's hotspot for Grassman sightings.
Oh, it was a beautiful day. Sunny, warm. And we get there and go out and begin our hike on Morgan's Trail.
At just under a mile, with sloping hills and ravines, Morgan's Loop Trail is considered only a moderately difficult hike, good for families.
Be careful, guys. Slow down.
I don't think any of us have been on Morgan's Trail. It was new to us, so we just followed the path to see where it would lead.
All right, which way you guys want to go? Over there?
Be careful, guys. You don't know what's over there. They're in a hurry.
Emily, her brother Andrew, and little sister Jersey went off into the woods to play on their own.
Hey, Mom. Where's Dad at?
After some time passed, Melissa began to feel uneasy.
My daughter kept saying, "Where's Dad at?" And I kind of got scared because I didn't know where my husband was. It was a hard trail to walk on, and I couldn't keep up with the kids. Finally, he caught up to us and told us we weren't on Morgan's Trail.
What happened to you guys? It's not even the main trail.
Where are the kids? I thought they were with you.
My 3 youngest kids were still way ahead of us. We were in the middle of the woods, and you don't know what you're going to meet or see, and that scared us.
According to Grassman researchers, the danger is real.
I would never have any kids run in the woods by themselves in Salt Fork.
When the Eddies heard their children in the distance,
You hear that? Yes.
they thought they could relax.
We can still hear them giggling, running, throwing rocks and sticks and stuff.
Their kids were having a good time, until they weren't.
Emily, what's wrong?
It's emergency.
What's that?
Suddenly, their daughter Emily burst out of the trees in a blind panic.
I just want to go home now.
Here comes Emily running, sprinting up the hill, crying and screaming. And she goes, "Mom, I want to go home and out." She wanted out of the woods. She wanted to go home.
Calm down. Tell me exactly what happened.
Emily was in hysterical tears and crying. You couldn't understand her. I told her to calm down, and she finally said, "There was something in the woods, something that peeked around the tree at me."
For tough kids used to the outdoors, this was unexpected. Something extraordinary was unfolding. When she finally calmed down, Emily recounted what happened.
Me and my brother and sister went ahead, and
Spider in your hair.
What?
I'm just kidding.
we were playing in the woods. It was a fun day until we looked over and saw this deer.
Only something spooked the deer.
And then next thing you know, behind the tree, there's a big black shadow. And it kind of leaned over, and it was really tall. It was one of those moments when you're so scared, you just stand there. I was frozen. I was terrified it would walk and throw something or do something to me. It was almost like a person, just really big and black.
Emily's brother Andrew was nearby when she screamed.
All of a sudden, she started freaking out, and she says that she sees something. It was far away. There was not a lot of detail, but it was a large, shadowy figure walking on 2 legs. I've never seen something that scary before in my life.
Andrew tore out after Emily. Unfortunately, that left their little sister Jersey all alone. innocence came face to face with the monster.
We were just sitting there and playing around, and we just saw a big black shadow.
It's a parent's worst nightmare.
Where's Jersey?
A child missing. Seconds feel like hours. But for Jersey, time must have stood still.
He was peeking behind the tree. I think I was looking at me. Couldn't see his eyes, but he's black.
In the nick of time, her brother returned.
When I saw Jersey crying, I grabbed her and ran up the hill.
You're okay.
The Eddy family were all safe for the moment.
All of a sudden, there was a large knock on a tree to our left, and then again to the center, and then again to the right. It's quite obvious something was striking a tree.
When Emily grabbed onto her dad and was screaming she wanted to go home, she wants to go home now. It scared me. It scared the kids.
Everybody back to the car, now. Let's go.
Was this hungry, hulking beast tracking the children?
I was fearful for our safety. Having evidence that there is possibly one here is frightening.
I think the kids saw that Ohio Grassman. That Grassman was watching those kids.
Where's he at here?
A little higher?
Yeah, a little higher. A little bit higher.
Oh, where? You said you saw a deer.
I think kids are like a prey to them. The Grassman was staring at them like it was preying on them.
The Eddy children are only the latest to run for their lives from an encounter with the Grassman. Since the 1970s, hundreds have reported seeing the mysterious beast. One man came under direct attack.
I was a goner. I knew that was it. I was finished.
30 miles west of Salt Fork Park sits Zanesville, Ohio. Stories have long circulated about hairy monsters residing in the grass hills outside of town. They were the kind of stories that hunter and trapper Hawk Spearman never paid much attention to.
You know, I really didn't believe it myself. The Grassman to me was a rumor. My fiance at that time told me she had an encounter with one when we first got together, and I laughed it off. I thought she was just yanking my chain.
Hawk's attitude would change after the couple moved to a house on the edge of the Woodbury wildlife area.
I wasn't real crazy about it. It made me very nervous, but he talked me into moving out there.
I told her, you know, everything would be all right.
Things were great at first. After I got out there, I loved it.
It really was a dream home for me and her.
With a move to the countryside, life for Hawk and Karen appeared full of opportunities. It was early spring. Hawk figured wild game would be starting to stir.
We got a beagle because of the way I like to hunt in that area. He was trained to hunt and chase down pretty much any animal you could find. I took him up on the hillside to go hunting. And that's when we smelled a very strong urine scent with a musky smell. Very, very strong. Almost to the point of gagging you strong. And when I come through the grass, come up on the other side of the brush, that's when I seen a 6.5 to 7 foot tall creature. It had wide shoulders. It had massive, huge bowling pin-like arms. Looked human, but covered in hair, like a Neanderthal in the face. The minute it did notice me, I knew that was it. I thought I was finished for sure. The rock landed in front of my toes. I turned and I ran back down the hillside.
When they come back down, he had this ashen look on his face, and it took me about 3 days to get out of him what he'd seen. I could tell the way he told me about his sighting that he wasn't joking.
And that was only the beginning. The Grassman had tracked Hawk back home.
We started hearing grunts and growls and hollers, and we'd see silhouettes of what looked to be upright walking people going past the windows and stuff.
Nighttime, it got kind of spooky. He would sit up with the gun all night, waiting to see what was going to happen.
Still worried.
Karen begged Hawk to leave. He kept saying the creatures would move on.
Okay, I promise. Okay.
They didn't. Then one night, they were awakened by a terrifying sound.
There was a really loud racket out there. You could hear it hitting against the trailer.
The Grassmen are very territorial and extremely aggressive. If they don't want you there, they're going to sit there and harass you till you leave.
It's gone now. Whatever it was.
Look! The last straw was when we found a gash above the door, probably 8 feet off the ground. Looked like a claw mark tore through the trailer. And that was the last straw for me.
I knew then there was nothing that I could do to protect my family if I needed to. So I said it was time for us to go.
We packed up and we got out of there.
The Grassman definitely terrified us. I'm stunned, to know that something like that actually exists.